Hello, knowledge seekers. In this episode of 20-Minute Books, we delve into A Biography of Loneliness by Dr. Faye Bound Alberti. This compelling book uncovers the evolution of loneliness, challenging the perception of this emotion as a timeless, universal experience. With meticulous research, Alberti reveals how the concept of loneliness has transformed since the early 19th century, becoming a defining trait of modern society. Dr. Faye Bound Alberti, a respected cultural historian, combines her expertise in medicine, the body, gender, and emotion to explore loneliness in an unprecedented way. As a UKRI Future Leaders Fellow and a reader in history at the University of York, Alberti's vast knowledge and unique insights illuminate the historical and contemporary landscapes of loneliness. A Biography of Loneliness is perfectly suited for readers fascinated by cultural history and the nuanced exploration of emotions. It also serves as an essential read for anyone concerned about the increasing prominence of loneliness in today's world, providing both a thorough understanding and a historical context to this complex emotional state. Join us as we explore the origins, evolution, and implications of loneliness through the ages, guided by one of the field's leading voices. A Biography of Loneliness, The History of an Emotion. Introduction. Unlock the Secrets of Loneliness, a modern emotional puzzle. Imagine standing in a crowd, surrounded by voices, yet feeling an unshakable sense of isolation. This paradoxical experience, known as loneliness, is not as age-old as one might think. In fact, the journey of loneliness from an obscure term to a widespread emotional state reflects not only linguistic evolution, but the changing tides of human society itself. Once upon a time, the concept of loneliness hardly existed. People might have felt oneliness, a term conveying the state of being alone without the negative connotations it carries today. Fast forward to the 1800s, and the narrative begins to shift. As society transformed, so did the understanding and experience of being alone, birthing the complex emotion we now recognize as loneliness. Alberti's incisive exploration delves into this transformation, tracing loneliness's journey against the backdrop of societal changes. How did this emotion, once virtually unacknowledged, come to be seen as an epidemic plaguing our modern world, especially among the elderly? Through engaging case studies from the grieving Queen Victoria to the omnipresent realm of social media, the analysis presents a kaleidoscopic view of loneliness's evolution and its intertwined relationship with cultural shifts. At the heart of this exploration lies a pressing inquiry. Is our era truly experiencing an unprecedented wave of loneliness? Social media, often indicted for isolating users in a virtual world, might not be the sole culprit. Instead, the narrative weaves through various societal changes, suggesting that today's acute sense of loneliness may be just as much a symptom of broader cultural dynamics as individual technology use. Alberti encourages us to rethink loneliness, not as an inevitable scourge, but as a complex phenomenon shaped by and shaping society. By understanding its roots and manifestations, we can start envisioning ways to mitigate its impact. From redefining our relationship with digital technology to fostering stronger community bonds, the solutions are as multifaceted as the problem itself. Join us on this insightful journey through the history of loneliness. Uncover the differences between loneliness and oneliness. Examine the role of social media in shaping modern emotional landscapes and explore actionable paths to address this nuanced challenge. Get ready to reevaluate everything you thought you knew about loneliness and discover how we might forge a more connected and less isolated future. Part 1. The Rise of Loneliness, from Background Emotion to Forefront Epidemic. In an era where phrases like the loneliness epidemic effortlessly weave into everyday conversation, it's both intriguing and slightly unsettling to reflect on the historical journey of loneliness. This emotion, often visualized as a shadow persistently trailing behind the hustle and bustle of modern life, has not always occupied such a prominent place in the human emotional spectrum. Visualize a scene straight out of the Beatles' poignant portrayal of isolation in Eleanor Rigby, a narrative set against the 1960s backdrop, a decade marked by social upheaval and the gradual dissolution of the archetypal nuclear family. This period signaled a noticeable uptick in loneliness, particularly among older adults, heralding a shift in societal structures and personal connections. Fast travel to the present, and loneliness is frequently labeled as an epidemic, a term that underscores its extensive impact on public health. Echoing this sentiment, the UK's National Health Service reveals startling statistics. Loneliness can drastically shorten lifespans, with lonely individuals facing a 30% increased risk of premature death. Moreover, it heightens the likelihood of various health complications, from dementia and depression to stroke, painting a grim picture of its effects on both mental and physical well-being. The conceptualization of loneliness as we understand it today only began taking shape in the 19th century, a testament to its relatively recent emergence in the lexicon of human emotions. Defining loneliness poses a linguistic challenge. It lacks a direct antonym and transcends the mere physical state of being alone, embodying a complex cocktail of emotional expressions including resentment, sorrow, shame, and self-pity. Loneliness holds a mirror to contemporary society, bearing an uncanny resemblance to obesity in its nature and implications. Both manifest as chronic conditions predominantly observed in Western contexts, stemming from lifestyle choices and exerting considerable strain on healthcare systems. A key difference, however, lies in their realms of confinement: obesity within the physical bounds of the body, and loneliness within the constraints of the mind. Yet it's crucial to recognize that loneliness transcends mere mental anguish, deeply interwoven with bodily experiences. As we delve deeper into the intricacies of loneliness, its genesis, evolution, and the multifaceted role it plays in our lives today, let's embark on an exploration of its historical trajectory and the profound implications it bears for modern society. Part 2: The Evolution of Loneliness: How Societal Changes Reshaped an Emotion. Once upon a time, the concept of being lonely dusted the pages of the English lexicon somewhat differently than it does today. Tracing its roots back to the 16th century, lonely initially carried a dual meaning, referencing both the melancholy tied to solitude and the characteristics of a secluded place. Interestingly, it was the latter, the idea of geographic or physical remoteness, that dominated conversations before the dawn of the 19th century. The term loneliness itself only gained traction in widespread discourse during this period, marking the emergence of a new chapter in the narrative of solitude. This linguistic shift reflects more than a mere evolution of semantics. It heralds the inception of an entirely new concept of solitude. The 19th century, a crucible of societal transformation, breathed life into a novel interpretation of loneliness, coloring it with a decidedly negative hue that diverged from previous perceptions. Previously, the state of being alone, or oneliness, a term that has since waned in popularity, was not inherently adverse. Solitude, often bathed in spiritual significance, was considered a beneficial, albeit mandatory, component of one's communion with the divine. The omnipresent nature of God rendered the concept of being truly alone a foreign notion, thereby imbuing solitude with a positive, almost sanctified essence. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the narrative has taken a stark turn. The virtues of solitude have receded into the background, overshadowed by the collective agreement that sociability is crucial to mental well-being. Yet, paradoxically, loneliness pervades modern society more than ever, propelled by significant shifts in lifestyle and philosophical outlook. A notable driver of this phenomenon is the evolution of living arrangements. The traditional multi-generational household archetype has given way to a new norm where living alone is increasingly common, a change intimately tied to the ascension of individualism as a societal virtue. Concurrently, the waning influence of religion in Western society has eroded the sacrosanct aura once surrounding solitude, severing the spiritual lifeline that previously mitigated the sting of isolation. In today's era, the divine no longer serves as the cornerstone of identity. Instead, our sense of self is intricately woven from the threads of interpersonal relationships. In the absence of these connections, we are left grappling with a stark, unadorned form of solitude. Thus, the modern manifestation of loneliness, starkly devoid of the spiritual consolation that tempered oneliness, emerges as a formidable challenge, reflecting a profound shift in how we interpret and navigate the waters of solitude amidst the tumultuous currents of societal change. Part 3. The Quest for a Soulmate, a Timeless Desire with Modern Implications. Have you ever felt a pang of loneliness, even in a room crowded with friends and laughter? You're not alone in this paradoxical experience. It's a sensation that has perplexed many, including the talented Sylvia Plath, whose college diaries unfold tales of her chronic loneliness amidst a bustling social and romantic life. This conundrum highlights a pervasive myth that shadows our understanding of connection, the myth of the soulmate. Tracing its roots back to ancient philosophy, the concept of the soulmate, one destined partner who completes us, remains as compelling today as it was centuries ago. Plato, in his Symposium, spun the original yarn of humans as beings sundered in half, eternally searching for their other halves to become whole once again. Fast forward to 1822, and we find Samuel Taylor Coleridge coining the term soulmate, weaving into the fabric of romantic love a thread that has only tightened with time. The narrative of soulmates not only survived but thrived into the Romantic era, offering a novel vision of marriage as a union fulfilling both emotional and spiritual needs, a domain earlier reserved for the divine. The literary world has played its part in perpetuating this idea, with Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights serving as a prime exhibit. The novel's depiction of love as an irreplaceable, albeit perilous, force of nature resonates through Heathcliff's impassioned declaration, "I cannot live without my life. I cannot live without my soul." This archetype of romantic love, dramatic and all-consuming, did not fade with time. It leaps out from the pages of contemporary literature, notably the Twilight series by Stephenie Meyer, which reinvigorates the soulmate theme within its story of vampiric love. Through the characters of Edward and Bella, we see the ideal of the soulmate championed to new heights, advocating a love so profound that any sacrifice, even the forsaking of one's humanity, is deemed worthy. Yet, beneath the seductive allure of soulmates lies a perilous undercurrent. This ideal, while enchanting, may inadvertently set us up for a lifetime of loneliness and unrealistic expectations. It encourages a belief that life is incomplete without finding our other half, projecting a state of perpetual incompleteness on those who walk the journey of life solo. The question then arises, are we truly doomed to a half-existence in the absence of a soulmate? Or can we find fulfillment and completeness within ourselves and through diverse relationships that enrich our lives? Perhaps it's time to untangle the myth from our collective psyche and embrace a broader, more inclusive understanding of love and connection. Part 4. Widowhood in the Lens of Loneliness. A Modern Transformation. The heartache of losing a partner knows no bounds, etching a deep mark of loneliness in the lives of those left behind. This profound sense of loss transcends the mere absence of a partner's physical presence, resonating through the echoes of shared memories and the haunting emptiness of now silent rooms. The objects and mementos once cherished by the departed become poignant reminders of their absence, weaving a tapestry of grief and nostalgia. Yet, the way we perceive and experience this void has evolved alongside our understanding of loneliness. To comprehend this shift, let's journey through two poignant narratives separated by a century, each unraveling the universal impact of loss across different walks of life. from a humble tradesman to a reigning monarch. Thomas Turner, an 18th century tradesman from Sussex, England, left behind an intimate diary that offers a window into his soul during a time of profound loss. Upon the death of his wife, Peggy, in 1761, Turner's words reveal a man grappling with sorrow and desolation, referring to himself as destitute and mourning the loss of the partner of my soul. Yet, his grief bore the mark of oneliness rather than the contemporary sense of loneliness. Turner found solace in his faith, much like Jesus' solitude in the wilderness, suggesting a spiritual communion with the divine rather than an insurmountable void. Fast forward to the 19th century, and we encounter Queen Victoria, whose life of opulence starkly contrasts with Turner's humble existence. The death of her beloved consort, Prince Albert, plunged her into a state of perpetual mourning that lasted 4 decades. Victoria's grief was manifested through an array of mourning rituals, including the daily arrangement of Albert's clothes and the preservation of his material legacy. Her diary entries frequently voiced a sentiment of loneliness, a term that embodies an acute sense of emptiness and isolation markedly different from Turner's oneliness. Through these contrasting experiences, we discern how societal and cultural shifts have redefined the solitude accompanying widowhood, no longer framed as a time of spiritual introspection and communion. The modern concept of loneliness underscores a profound emptiness and disconnection from both the divine and the community. The evolution from oneliness to loneliness carries with it a heavier burden, transforming the experience of losing a partner into one marked by an intense, more isolating breed of sorrow. This shift in perception underscores the transformative power of societal values on our most personal experiences of grief, highlighting the complexity and depth of the human condition in the face of loss. Part 5. Navigating the complex web of social media and millennial loneliness. In the contemporary narrative of loneliness, an epidemic casts a shadow not only over the elderly, but increasingly among the younger, vibrant age groups of society. The spotlight, in recent discussions, has pivoted towards millennials, a generation purportedly ensnared by the vines of isolation, with social media frequently branded as the chief architect of this solitude. However, a deeper dive into the intricacies of this dynamic reveals a narrative far more layered than initial perceptions suggest. The UK's Office for National Statistics' revelation that young adults are the most likely candidates to report feelings of loneliness ignites a curious inquiry into the role of social media in shaping these emotions. The term FOMO, or fear of missing out, crystallizes the anxiety and isolation bred in the fertile grounds of online platforms, where the portrayal of enviable, glamorous lives is commonplace. But is social media the root cause of this loneliness, or merely a reflection of an already existing condition? History offers perspective, reminding us of the trepidation that accompanied the advent of the telephone, a technology once feared to signal the end of interpersonal visits and the rise of laziness. Yet, the telephone emerged as a lifeline for isolated individuals, proving its worth beyond the initial panic. This historical parallel suggests that the impact of technology on social connection is not a one-dimensional narrative. Social media stands at the crossroads of connection and isolation. Research indicates that its usage can amplify feelings of loneliness, particularly when it supersedes real-world interactions. However, when social media serves as a bridge to real life, enhancing rather than replacing offline activities, its role morphs from a potential harbinger of isolation to a tool of engagement and community building. This nuanced understanding lifts the veil of binary judgment often cast over social media, recognizing it as a double-edged sword in the discourse of millennial loneliness. Rather than categorizing it as the villain of the piece, it is essential to consider the broader lifestyle context of the user. In some instances, social media might intensify feelings of loneliness, yet in others, it has the potential to forge connections that leap out of the digital realm into the tangible world. Extending beyond millennials, the potential of social media to mitigate loneliness spans across age groups, offering a beacon of hope to older generations equally grappling with the shadows of isolation. The key lies in the mindful and balanced integration of social media into our lives, encouraging interactions that extend beyond the glow of screens to enrich the fabric of real world community and connection. Part 6: Addressing the Silent Crisis, Combating Elderly Loneliness. In the twilight years of life, loneliness emerges not just as an emotional challenge, but as a pressing social issue. Recent statistics paint a concerning picture, revealing that while only a fraction of the elderly initially report feelings of loneliness, this figure dramatically escalates among those surpassing the age of 80. Coupled with the demographic shift towards an aging population in Western societies, the problem of loneliness among the elderly is set to intensify, ticking away like a societal time bomb waiting to detonate. But loneliness in old age transcends the boundaries of mere emotional discomfort. It heralds serious health ramifications. The shadow of loneliness looms large, casting a risk of dementia among its other somber consequences. At the core of this silent crisis lies the concept of unmet need, illuminating a stark reality where the essential desires and requirements of the elderly, from basic physical assistance to the fundamental human craving for conversation, are neglected. The predicament in the UK serves as a poignant case study, where the burgeoning proportion of older citizens starkly contrasts with the stagnant, if not dwindling, provision of social care. This glaring inadequacy highlights a systemic failure to accommodate the evolving demographic landscape, leaving the needs of the elderly unattended and fostering a soil ripe for loneliness. Moreover, societal perceptions exacerbate the issue. In a world that prizes economic productivity, old age becomes inadvertently synonymous with obsolescence. The diminishing intergenerational ties of yore further isolate the elderly, cultivating a breeding ground for loneliness and an insidious sense of self-blame among the aged. Confronting this complex web of loneliness among the elderly demands innovative and empathetic solutions beyond the conventional model of care homes. While such facilities may offer a remedy to isolation by congregating the elderly under one roof, they scarcely scratch the surface of the profound loneliness that gnaws at the soul. Furthermore, segregating the elderly into care homes perpetuates the notion of them as an other, a distinct entity detached from the societal fabric. A more holistic approach requires dismantling the stigma surrounding old age, viewing it not as a condition to be pathologized but as a phase of life deserving dignity and inclusivity. The challenge beckons us to forge new pathways that not only address the tangible aspects of care, but also rekindle the essence of community and interpersonal connection, ensuring that the golden years of life are marked not by solitude but by a sense of belonging and fulfillment. Part 7: The Many Shades of Loneliness, From Pain to Inspiration. Loneliness, much like a chameleon, changes its colors across different spaces, times, and individuals. It doesn't discern based on age, social status, or life phase, affecting each person in a tapestry of ways that reflect the complexity of human existence. Moreover, this emotional landscape is further complicated by societal gender norms, where the labels of spinster and bachelor reveal starkly contrasting societal attitudes towards the singlehood. But loneliness is not just a state of mind. It manifests in the physical realm, echoing through our bodies with as much intensity as hunger or cold. Neuroscientists John Cacioppo and Patrick William draw a vivid analogy between loneliness and hunger, both serving as visceral reminders of an absence, an unmet need demanding our attention. In attempts to quell this ache, some turn to the fleeting comfort of retail therapy, a testament to the lengths we go to try and mute the pangs of loneliness with material possessions. However, this is often a futile endeavor. Objects, rather than filling the void, can sometimes exacerbate feelings of loneliness by evoking painful memories, as observed in the case of Queen Victoria, whose mourning was perpetuated by the material remnants of her lost love. Yet, loneliness does not wear a single face of despair. For some, it is a chosen path, a gateway to creativity and introspection. The arts have long celebrated the solitary figure, with isolation viewed as a necessary condition for artistic brilliance. Virginia Woolf and Rainer Maria Rilke stand as testaments to the belief that solitude, with its inherent pain, can be a powerful muse, fostering a deep communion with the inner self, unattainable amidst the cacophony of social existence. However, it is crucial to tread carefully when romanticizing loneliness, acknowledging the privilege inherent in the choice to seek solitude. The ability to retreat into loneliness by choice and emerge from it at will is a luxury not afforded to all. For many, such as the homeless or refugees, loneliness is an uninvited, lingering presence with no respite in sight. Their experiences underscore the reality that loneliness, for some, is not a well from which inspiration is drawn, but a persistent shadow cast over their lives without the promise of a reprieve. This complex panorama of loneliness, painted with strokes of pain, creativity, and societal norms, invites a deeper reflection on its multifaceted nature. It challenges us to recognize the diverse experiences of loneliness and to approach it with nuance and empathy, acknowledging its capacity to both inspire and devastate. Part 8. Loneliness in the Lens of Modernity. Rethinking a Contemporary Dilemma. The landscape of loneliness, as we experience it today, is distinctly modern in its contours and origins. The journey from oneliness, a state once devoid of the negative connotations it carries today, to the complex, often burdensome loneliness of the present era, didn't occur in a vacuum. It mirrored the seismic shifts in society over the past 2 centuries, reflecting profound transformations in family dynamics and the rising tide of individualism. Charles Darwin, albeit indirectly, sparked a paradigm shift in how loneliness is perceived, extending the repercussions of his evolutionary theories beyond the natural world to the very fabric of society. The advent of social Darwinism likened life's struggles to a competitive battleground, embedding the ethos of survival of the fittest into our economic and political systems. This framework has not only influenced our collective psyche, but has also shaped the individual's quest for success as a solitary pursuit. In today's context, neoliberalism, with its roots entwined with social Darwinism, emerges as a key proponent of loneliness. Its championing of free market principles, coupled with an accent on competition, deregulation, and privatization, has recalibrated societal values, placing the individual at the forefront. The resultant narrative is one of isolation, where communal support systems are eroded, leaving those in need grappling with the void of disconnection. Confronting the tide of loneliness that characterizes the modern Western world demands a re-examination of its nature and origins. Rather than wielding the term epidemic to describe loneliness, which casts it in the light of inevitability and disease, a paradigm shift is imperative. Recognizing loneliness as a byproduct of our contemporary social structure and value systems serves as a critical first step toward addressing it. The relatively brief timeline of loneliness, spanning just over 2 centuries, underscores its absence in human nature's core, pinning it instead as a manifestation of our increasingly individualistic society. Looking ahead, while a revival of oneliness may lie beyond our immediate grasp, succumbing to the dictates of modern loneliness is not our only recourse. A deeper, more nuanced understanding of loneliness, its impact, and the mechanisms behind its prevalence, paves the way for more compassionate, collective efforts in mitigating its grasp. By reckoning with loneliness not as an individual failing but as a societal challenge, we can begin to unravel the threads of isolation and weave a more connected, supportive fabric of community life. A final summary. Loneliness, as we confront it today, is not an ageless shadow that has trailed humanity since time immemorial. It is instead a distinctly modern construct, shaped by the tides of history and society. Its essence, deeply entwined with the fabric of our contemporary existence, stands in stark contrast to the concept of oneliness known to our predecessors before the 19th century, a period that heralded the dawn of solitude as we perceive it now. This contemporary loneliness we navigate is characterized by an acute sense of absence, a void that spans various aspects of human experience. From the poignant solitude of losing a partner to the paradoxical isolation amplified by social media's ubiquity. Loneliness manifests in diverse, often unexpected ways. Its reach extends beyond the simplistic associations with aging or the advent of digital technology, urging a deeper, more nuanced comprehension of its roots and ramifications. The journey of understanding loneliness demands a re-evaluation of its very essence, peeling away the layers of modernity to reveal its true nature. It calls for a departure from viewing loneliness as an inevitable plight of the elderly or a byproduct of technological advances. Instead, it beckons us to explore its historical evolution, recognizing loneliness as a reflection of the profound societal transformations that have shaped the modern world. In essence, the challenge of confronting loneliness in our time is not merely about addressing an individual or collective emotional state. It is about engaging with a complex phenomenon that is intimately linked to the broader dynamics of history, culture, and the shifting landscapes of human connection. By adopting this broader perspective, we open the door to more empathetic, informed approaches to mitigating loneliness and fostering a more interconnected, understanding society. Thank you for joining me today on this journey of learning and discovery as we explored the insights of another thought-provoking book in our growing library of knowledge. If you've enjoyed our time together, please take a moment to follow our podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and share 20-minute books with other knowledge seekers. Your support truly means a lot. Don't forget to join me again in the next episode, where we will delve into another enriching book. Until then, happy reading and happy listening.